Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. By the way, it's the first time I've ever spoken to a mic and it worked the first try, so maybe we'll have some good luck today. I'd like to welcome you to the 2018 annual meeting of the shareholders of Dundee Corporation. Before we proceed, I kindly ask that all cellular phones be turned off or choose a ringtone with music that I like from the 70s. My name is Jonathan Goodman, and as Executive Chairman of the Corporation, I will chair today's meeting. I'd like to introduce you to your head table. To my immediate left, Mark Goodman, President, followed by Bob Sellers, Executive Vice President and Chief Financial Officer, followed by Richard McIntyre, Executive Vice President and Chief Operating Officer, and Savan Fox, Vice President, Legal and Corporate Secretary. The following directors of Dundee Corporation are present this afternoon. I would ask that you please stand when your name is announced. Garth McRae, Robert McLeish, Andrew Molson, A. Murray Sinclair, and K. Barry Sparks. I would like to thank our board members for their continued support and sage counsel. Please note that only shareholders of Class A subordinate voting shares and Class B common shares of the corporation and their respective proxies are permitted to participate in the voting during the formal business portion of the annual meeting matters, being the appointment of auditors, the authorization of the directors of the corporation to fix the auditor's remuneration, and the election of directors. Following termination of the formal part of the meeting, we'll have a presentation, after which we'll invite questions from the floor. All shareholders and guests are welcome to participate in this informal portion of the meeting. I will now call this meeting to order, and I'd ask Savan Fox, Vice President, Legal and Corporate Secretary of the Corporation, to act as Secretary of the meeting. The list of shareholders entitled to vote at this meeting has been tabled. Computershare Investor Services, by its representative Daniela Munoz and Patty Sigianis, will act as scrutineers of the meeting. Please raise your hand if you have any objections to this matter. Has everyone registered with the scrutineers? If not, please do so now. The Secretary has advised me that the notice calling this meeting, together with the forms of proxy and management proxy circular, and the financial statements of Dundee Corporation for the financial year ended December 31st, 2017, and the auditor's report thereon, have been made available to each director, auditor, and shareholder of the corporation on record as of April 10th, 2018. Additional copies are available at the registrar table. I've been advised by the Secretary that there's a quorum, and as notice of the meeting has been properly given, I declare this meeting properly constituted for the transaction of business. Unless there's an objection, I will dispense with the reading of the notice of the meeting. Two persons present in person at the opening of the meeting who aren't... Okay, never mind. Wasn't supposed to read that part. This is my first time working off of this one, so I'm used to doing a different version. The scrutineers have advised that the proxies received have voted in support of the election of directors nominated by management of the corporation and the appointment of PricewaterhouseCoopers LLP as auditors of the corporation. To the best of my belief, if ballots were to be conducted on the election of directors or appointment of PricewaterhouseCoopers LLP as auditor, the total number of votes attached to the shares represented in the meeting by proxy and that are required to be voted against motions before the meeting would be less than 3% of all votes that might be cast at the meeting in the ballot. Accordingly, unless a registered shareholder or proxy holder requests a ballot on such matters, I shall conduct the vote in respect of such matters by a show of hands in order to expedite the voting. As in previous meetings, we will first attend to the matters which are set out in the notice of meeting. For each matter to be voted upon, I'll ask whether there is a discussion. I request that any person wishing to speak at such time give his or her name and state whether he or she is a shareholder or proxy holder before speaking. I should remind everyone that prior to the general question period, questions or comments must relate to the specific matter before the meeting. Following the formal portion of the meeting, shareholders, proxy holders, and guests will be given the opportunity to ask questions. The Secretary has the minutes of our last annual meeting of shareholders, which occurred on June 5th, 2017. These minutes can be examined at any time by any shareholder. Unless there is an objection, I will dispense with the reading of the minutes of such meeting. presentation of financial statements and auditor's report. The first item of business is a presentation of the corporation's financial statements for the financial year ended December 31st, 2017, and the auditor's report thereon. Unless there is an objection, I will dispense with the reading of the auditor's report. There will be an opportunity to ask questions in connection with the financial statements after the formal part of this meeting. The next item of annual business is the appointment of the auditor of the corporation for the ensuing year and to authorize the directors of the corporation to fix the remuneration of the auditor. The audit committee of our board has approved, subject to shareholder confirmation, the appointment of Pricewaterhouse LLP as auditors of the corporation. I will now accept a motion for the appointment of the auditor for the ensuing year and to authorize the directors to fix the remuneration of such auditor.
Mr. Chairman, I move to appoint PricewaterhouseCoopers LLP as auditor of the corporation until the next annual meeting of shareholders or until a successor is appointed and to authorize the directors to fix the auditor's remuneration. Mr. Chairman, I second the motion.
Thank you. Is there any discussion on the matter? I will now call a vote by a show of hands. For the motion? Abstentions? Carried. I declare that the motion carried and that PricewaterhouseCoopers LLP Chartered Accountants is appointed auditor of the corporation for the ensuing year and that the directors are authorized to fix the remuneration of such auditor. The next item of annual business is the election of directors. The number of directors to be elected at the meeting is 6. The election of the directors will be conducted on an individual and not slate basis. The corporation has adopted a majority voting policy for the election of directors, and accordingly, if any of the directors standing for re-election do not receive the vote for at least a majority of the votes cast at the meeting, such director will be required to promptly tender his resignation to the board of directors of the corporation, who will determine whether to accept or reject the resignation in accordance with the policy. I declare the meeting open for nominations. Management's nominees were identified in the management information circular mailed to the shareholders, and they are Garth McRae, Robert McLeish, Andrew Molson, A. Murray Sinclair, K. Barry Sparks, and myself, Jonathan Goodman. The form of proxy for voting on the election of directors sets out each proposed nominee separately and allows shareholders to vote for each director individually. To the best of my belief, the total number of votes attached to the shares represented at this meeting by proxy that are to be withheld from voting by any individual nominee is less than 3% of the votes cast for the election of directors at this meeting. Accordingly, in order to expedite the voting procedure, I propose that unless a ballot is demanded in respect of any individual nominee, the election of directors to be voted upon by a show of hands. I will now hear a motion nominating these persons as directors.
Mr. Chairman, I move to nominate each of the 6 management nominees for election as director of the company to hold office until the next annual meeting of shareholders or until the successor is elected or appointed. I would second the motion.
Are there any further nominations? As there are no further nominations, I now declare nominations closed. May I have a motion that the 6 persons nominated as directors of the corporation be so elected?
Mr. Chairman, I so move. Mr. Chairman, I second the motion.
Thank you. Are there any discussions on this matter? As previously stated, the voting for each individual nominee will be by a show of hands. Since the total number of votes attached to the shares represented at this meeting by proxy that are to be withheld from voting for any individual nominee is less than 3% of the votes cast for election of directors at this meeting, to expedite matters, we will vote for all nominees in one vote. I now put the motion to the meeting and call for a vote by a show of hands. All those in favor of the election of the 6 nominated directors previously named? Abstentions? I declare the motion carried and that each of the 6 nominees are elected as directors of the corporation to serve until the next annual meeting of shareholders or until his resignation or successor has been duly elected or appointed. This concludes the formal business of the meeting. As there is no formal business to be brought before the meeting, I declare the meeting terminated. So I can put this book down. And now we start into the real presentation. So first of all, welcome, and thank you for coming to the Dundee Corp annual meeting. I'm going to divide my talk into 2 segments today. The first will be a summary of 2017, and the second will be where we are heading. As most of you know, Dundee Corp is a holding company that is focused on 4 key investment areas, notably natural resources, being mining and oil and gas, real estate, merchant banking, and agriculture. Over the years, we've had significant success in 3 of these 4 industries. At the end of March, I volunteered to do the clicking, and I've already kind of screwed this up, but we're now caught up. At the end of March 2018, our portfolio was 27% invested in mining, 26% energy, 19% real estate, 12% financial, 7% agriculture, and 9% other. 2017 was a transition year for Dundee, where the focus has been on active portfolio management of our portfolio, the repositioning of key portfolio holdings, and the de-risking of our existing portfolio, and of course, managing our corporate expenses and bringing our costs down, and always managing our balance sheet and bringing us to a net debt-free position. There was also much accomplished in 2017. Dundee Precious Metals, our largest holding, had a record year. Construction at the Park Resort was completed and the startup of operations occurred. United Hydrocarbons was significantly de-risked and is now a significant royalty holder. Our head office expenses have been reduced significantly. We've also had some setbacks during the year. There was a fire at our Tender Choice plant in Burlington, Ontario, which destroyed the plant. Blue Goose, in their land and cattle division, also suffered from the wildfires in BC. And we also took a major write-down on our holdings of Union Group, who could not provide us with audited financial statements. I'm going to talk a little bit about some of our success stories for 2017. One that's near and dear to my heart is Dundee Precious Metals. Dundee Precious Metals is the largest holding that we own in our portfolio. Chelopech, the flagship mine of Dundee Precious Metals, had a record production year and cash flow generation was very strong. They produced nearly 200,000 ounces of gold and over 35 million pounds of copper. And what's even better is it's poised for a very similar year in 2018. We are also, at Dundee Precious Metals, in 2018, we'll be commissioning the Krumovgrad gold mine, which will produce concentrate by the 4th quarter of 2018. Over the first 5 years at Krumovgrad, they will produce 103,000 ounces of gold and 39,000 ounces of silver per year on average, at a cash cost, all-in sustaining cash cost of under $400 an ounce. This will be a very significant boost to Dundee Precious Metals' cash flow and EBITDA, and should double the EBITDA over the 5-year period, which will leave the stock open for a re-rating. At Park, we successfully opened the casino and hotel in the fall of 2017 and had the resort fully operational by early 2018. It's still ramping up and results to date are encouraging, but there are challenges remaining. The casino is actually doing very well. The hotel is ramping up and the food and beverage still needs a lot of work, but we're confident that as time goes by, this thing will get to the levels that we project, which were around $70 million in EBITDA per year. It's just not going to happen right away. Right now, we're exploring capital financing opportunities to further de-risk it and bring us, finance it for the time period to get the cash flows going. United Hydrocarbons was significantly de-risked with a transaction with Delenex Energy. Delenex is an experienced operator in Africa and will be spending a minimum spend of $65 million on the projects there, and we retain a royalty, a 5% royalty on the Block H and a 10% royalty on the others. And we expect to see a well drilled this year, and if successful, this thing has the potential to provide significant cash flows to Dundee Corp. So now I'm going to talk about our renewed vision. What are we going to do moving forward? We see a very attractive opportunity in the junior mining sector. There's a disconnect right now between commodity prices and the valuations of junior mining companies. A disconnect that in my career of a little over 32 years I've never seen before. Since 2011, the equity valuations for junior miners are down over 80%. The market dynamics that we see out there are very similar to what we saw during the financial crisis of 2008, 2009. Just right now we see it in one sector, and to me it's a tremendous opportunity. So why does this exist? One, retail investors have abandoned the junior market space. So have institutional investors. On the junior end, the specialty resource funds have all been forced to move up market for liquidity reasons because they're all significantly still in net redemptions, even the ones that have performed well. The risk capital has been diverted to cannabis, cryptocurrencies, and ETFs. And most of the big retail brokerage firms are pushing their advisors to put the money into ETFs, and yet the minimum market cap in an ETF stock is still well above the junior miners that we see. So the results we see is that the junior mining stocks have been orphaned in today's capital markets, and that's where we see a lot of opportunities. So what's the path forward? We've always focused on value investing, and we continue to focus on value investing. You're always going to do better when you can buy a dollar for 50 cents. In this case, you're buying a dollar for closer to 10 cents. Deep dive due diligence. Over the years at Dundee, we've always made a point of doing a lot of very deep technical and financial due diligence on the mining investment stocks that we've invested in, and we continue to do that, and even more rigorously in today's environment. This gives us a sustainable competitive advantage with our own in-house knowledge and experience. And we plan to build a strategic investment brand around the historic Dundee brand, which has always been a leader in the mining industry. So we're going to build a model for fee generation, and we're in the process of building that. One, to be actively involved in the capital raising activities of the companies we invest in. We're not just passive investors. We're going to work with these companies to help them raise money, help them spend money, help them design their programs, help them take the assets through the de-risking process. We're also in a position with the revamping of the Dundee Securities to do advisory services for M&A and other corporate transactions, which we do and will continue to do out of our Vancouver office. And offer business and technical services, corporate governance, and marketing. You know, we've been around this business for a long time. We've seen a lot of mistakes, and we can certainly offer a lot of guidance to some of these companies as to how to avoid the pitfalls. And we can generate significant capital gains through a repeatable investment model. We plan on putting our money where our mouth is. We're not just going to be helping companies raise money. We're going to write a check alongside people that invest with us. And that's something you don't see very often. So the plan is to build it on a legacy of success. As a part of Dundee, we've been involved in the founding and leading of many mining companies over the years. I myself had personal involvement with numerous of these. Some of these companies, Kinross Gold, Dundee Precious Metals, Repadre Capital, more recently Osisko Mining and eCobalt Solutions. So what can you expect from us this year? First of all, we're in the process of rebuilding out our capital markets platform And I think Rick, Rob, and Olaf are here today and from Vancouver, and they'd be happy to talk to you about the capital markets and the merchant banking business we're starting to form. An ongoing portfolio and review and restructuring. We've got a very significant portfolio, and we've taken an approach that every asset needs to be looked at hard and rigorously, and we're in the process of doing that. The ones that are giving us problems will either be sold or fixed, and we're going to have a portfolio that we're very excited about moving forward. And continue the push on reducing expenses and managing the costs of the firm. And of course, embedded in all this is a very rigorous capital allocation discipline, which forces you to really understand why you spend every dollar and what that dollar is worth in the future. So on this, I'm going to open up to some questions, and there's myself and our senior team here. We'll be happy to answer them. In the back there. You may want to use the mic.
I have one question, first of all. Mr. Goodman bought a part of the Canadian Stock Exchange.
Yep.
According to Tom Caldwell, I guess it has to be true. That's not controlled at all by this corporation? Or
Yes, it is. We own 28% of the CSE in this corporation. It's doing very well.
Yes.
And it's under financial in that thing. It says 12% financial.
Oh, okay.
It's
Yeah,
one of our, it's one of our investments.
I didn't get a chance to see that. And I've usually known this company to have about 52 million shares outstanding.
I think it's about 58.
Okay. And you have no intention then of doing a 1 for 10 or something like that?
No, we one for so that we
One
have
new share for 10.
So we have 5.8 million shares
It's kind of
outstanding.
ridiculous, isn't it? So I guess we can rest assured that we won't be seeing that.
No.
Yeah. Okay. Thank you very much.
Hi, my name is Ida T. I'm a shareholder since the start that company exists. And God bless his name, Ned Goodman, and he's not around. And he was the biggest salesman, which all of you guys should start learning to promote your company. I own 10,000, 15,000 of the shares, and I'm disappointed it's selling at $1.80, but the fact book value is $10. So why don't you speak more about it? Go to BNN, go all the directors, tell everybody about the company, and share it up, because this way, I don't know, today my question is, are you let the company go down so you can buy the shares and shareholders like me should get out, or you want more shareholder? So why don't you explain? And what you done today is very clear. If you have rotten eggs, get rid of it, and then make sure to everybody be aware of what you are going to do. So somewhere or another, have more people believing in the company and be firm. And I know you have some issues and disease, sickness and stuff, but I think you better focus and get everybody working together. Thank you.
Thank you. Well, first of all, I think my dad would be flattered to hear himself called a salesman.
He was a super salesman. I know him that. He phoned me personally in the past. I say, buy more Dundee, do this, personally. And I done it. And I done very good until recently, where now I'm shocked to see it down, 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 down. And then immediately, when I tried the phone a few times and I cannot reach him, I say, when I talked to him last year, he was here. I told him, Ned, he doesn't feel good because I'm the same age like your dad, 81 years old. But I'm still alive, and I believe that you guys too, nice to see you, nice to see your brother, and I have a lot of history with the family of Goodman.
Well, I can assure you that there's no secret plot to drive the shares down so that we could buy them back cheap. We all own a lot of stock, and we all would like to see the stock trade a lot better. But to do that, we've got some investments. We've had a bit of bad luck at the Blue Goose We've had, since 2011, the mining and resource end of the market has been down, and we are now very focused, repositioning the portfolio to looking forward to make the company great again in the future.
Good, don't push it now. I'm going to buy another 10,000 shares.
You just told me to be a salesman, and now you're telling me to not push it?
Well, don't push it for 24 hours at least until I
Okay.
buy.
So everybody, let's wait 24 hours, let this man get his position increased, and then we can start buying again. Thank you. Any more questions? Over here. Oh, nice to meet you, Jim.
And so why wouldn't you sell anything that's not nailed down liquid and buy back as many shares as you can right now?
I hear you, and the answer to that is, one is capital is finite. So if there's any stumble, first I should probably repeat the question, is why wouldn't we just sell everything we can and buy as much stock back as we can? We carry a book value of $10 a share. That doesn't mean you can get $10 a share for every asset you go and sell. I mean, that's an accounting defined book value, and I know our auditors are here and they're all smiling because they know how hard we go back and forth on pushing and testing all of the metrics within the portfolio. But the answer is that capital is finite, and as a firm with finite capital, we've got preferred shares that are due in a little over a year. We have, our balance sheet still needs a lot of work, and if you stumble at all, and as you know, as a portfolio manager, that if everything always worked out perfectly, we'd all be long retired. When you stumble, the cost of stumbling would be extremely high for us because our cost of capital is high. And if we took, if I went and sold $125 million of Dundee precious metals and bought back, well, if I used it all to buy back stock, it would just be me and my brothers left. So I guess it wouldn't be anybody else's problem. But, accessing more capital would be very difficult. But the math is correct. Thank you, Jim. Are there any questions for other members of the management team? I assure you they're very capable and a very strong team that can answer the tougher questions. Okay,
I think there's one more, John.
I saw it.
Yes, Aino Adler here, former shareholder. But what I'm wondering about, how did you get the cost of gold down to $400 an ounce, all in cost?
Well, I can tell you the CEO for Dundee Precious Metals is sitting right over there, and he might be the best miner I've ever met. So if anybody can get it down, but the answer is Krumovgrad is a very special gold deposit. It has about a 2.5 to 1 strip ratio, and it has a very high grade. I think the life of mine average grade is close to 4 grams a ton. Now 4 grams a ton means it's about worth $160 rock. We get about an 85% recovery, and the early years we're going to get some very high grades. We're going to get even higher than the average grade. So it's one, by managing the costs and managing the project very efficiently, but also by optimizing the ore body and getting the higher grades out a lot quicker, and you can very much enhance the net present value and make a lot of money. Rick, have I missed anything there? Thank you.
And I guess another question is, when do you expect to actually turn a profit?
Well, at Dundee Corp, we manage it as a portfolio, so it's very hard. You really, some of our investments, you actually book the revenue alongside it. Some of the holdings, you make revenue when you sell the securities. So you can't really manage the profits day to day. And there's a lot of accounting things that happen when you revalue portfolios, when the price of certain commodities changing, and in the portfolio management world, no offense, we call that noise. But the reality of it is, when you sell a security for a lot more money than you paid for it is when you make money.
Thank you.
There's that deafening silence as everybody would like to get closer to that bar. On that note, I think the whole team is going to stay around here, and we're all open to have discussions privately. And thank you very much, and have a drink on us. Thank you.